proposed law, religious schools to lose right to fire based on sexuality.
Wait, I was muted. I was clapping as well. Go ahead.
Religious schools and organizations in the Australian state of Victoria may soon be prohibited from firing or terminating. May soon be prohibited from not hiring or terminating based on the applicant's gender identity, sexual orientation, or marital status. On September 16th, the Victorian Labor Party in Australia proposed a new law that would end this discriminatory practice. Currently, religious organizations are free to end or deny employment to LGBT people simply because of their sexual orientation or gender identity.
Wow.
A Christian advocacy group, the Australian Christian Lobby, or ACL, has expressed that the proposal is, quote, an attack on people of faith. Marc Spencer, the ACL's public policy director, asked, why is the government trying to dictate to a Christian school who it can employ or in what role?
Okay, this is great progress. Wait, how is it? Okay, actually, I'm going to ruin this. How is it that this is still a thing, though?
You always do this.
No, I'm like, this is Australia we're talking about. Like, this is only now fixed?
Well, it's going to be proposed. They're like setting this in motion. So my understanding is that this is not fully in effect yet, but they're talking about bringing this forward and putting this into effect.
How is it that in like first world countries we could still like, oh yeah, we're gonna fire you because you're LGBT and that's like legal? Like, how is that still a thing?
It's because there were religious exemptions to the current law. And so now they're seeking to close those loopholes.
This is, I mean, if you need examples for why religion is just keeping us in the dark ages, it's just like holding us back, like everything is moving forward full speed. This one thing that is like has this clause on progress, and it's just like, nope, like we're just gonna hold you back, like just like stay here. It's religion. It's religion that is these values. It's just like not letting us just go and just get better. You know what I mean? Like just get, you know, just get on with it. Like your time is up. Religion is over. Just leave us. Let us go. Your time is up. Come on, Nick, we want to move towards the 21st century. Let us go.
Time's up, lady.
We want to progress. Like we want to move on. Like how there's nothing as, you know, there are many non-religious harmful ideas out there, but when it comes to this sticky, you know, feature where it just keeps you in the past and just not lets you move forward, nothing does that better than religious ideas. Like you're just like, we're not gonna change. We're just gonna like, these are ideas from Bronze Age, you know.
Yeah.
Goat
so
herders.
AGA is pointing out, one of our local Aussies, all schools in Australia receive government money, so they should all be subject to state and federal discrimination laws. Exactly. And in some of the reports I've been reading on this, that is one of the central issues in terms of bringing forward this law, is that there are so many conflicts between like state level, federal level and stuff, but it's on like a detail, and I'm not familiar with the Australian legal standards in the system, so I'm not going to get into the details, but this is obviously something I'm very excited about. The Victorian Attorney General, Jacqueline Symes, said that the changes are being made to ease the fear of some teachers and employees at religious schools, that they have like fears of they're going to be outed to their employer and then lose their job. She said, quote, people shouldn't have to hide who they are to keep their job. We are closing this unfair, hurtful gap in our laws so that Victoria's LGBT community won't have to pretend to be someone they're not just to do the job they love. And then she continued, these laws will strike the right balance between protecting the LGBT community from discrimination and supporting the fundamental rights of religious bodies and schools to practice their faith. So this is what I think is really interesting. The proposed law does have some verbiage in it that I think is an important distinction. So it's saying religious organizations will still be able to employ people based on their religious belief where it is critical to the job. And there will be no changes in how schools will convey their religious beliefs to students. So that's like a key note or stipulation to try to maintain that standard of religious freedom to a certain degree, because it reminds me of a case that happened in the United States where a federal appellate court decided that a substitute teacher was wrongfully fired from a Catholic school because he announced that he was going to get married to his partner. And that court decided that it was a wrongful firing because his status as a gay man was irrelevant to his ability to teach quote unquote like secular subjects, aka he taught English and drama. So like my understanding was if he was teaching a religious subject, or because it was a Catholic school, like there might have been a different finding from the court in that case. That was an American court situation, but that seems like a comparable example here where they're saying if it's not relevant to the job, you can't fire someone on the basis of that. So if they were trying to imbue religious beliefs to someone, that's maybe where that could become an issue.
What
do you
some
think?
examples of it being relevant to the job?
Like if you are at a Catholic school and you are teaching children like a course on the catechism of the Catholic Church, and then it seems to me there is a different standard over your potentially like a morality clause or something that a lot of like Catholic schools have.
Do you think that's fair? I mean, to me, it seems like that's the only form of religious discrimination where I think it should be allowed, right? Like, for example, if you have I don't know, your own private, I mean, it shouldn't be public, obviously. None of religious teaching, I think, should be funded like publicly, but I'm not talking about this specific example. I'm just talking about hypothetically, what form of religious discrimination I would be okay with. And I think like if there's a Quran study class, for example, or a Bible reading class, you know, I mean, even privately, right? Like for example, you say you want to hire a private tutor for your kid, right? Again, I'm not endorsing any of these things as a good parenting or anything. I'm just saying like what should be allowed legally, right? And you want to have Quran reading classes for your children or a Bible reading class for your children, and you put up ads for, you're looking for somebody to come teach your kids, and let's say you're a Muslim family, and then the person is an atheist, but they want to teach your kids about the Quran. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm looking for a Muslim teacher, right? I think that's a reasonable form of discrimination to be like, I'm only looking for a Muslim teacher here, right? I mean, like for example, racial discrimination, right? If you're having a class, if a teacher is like, I want to bring somebody to tell people about Black experiences in United States, in their experience, like experience with discrimination, come and tell kids, like let's say their experiences they have.
Their individual personal experience?
Yeah. Come and share their experiences, like, and then, obviously you're going to look for somebody that is actually Black, right? So that's not discrimination, you know what I mean? So I think it's like, if it's that directly relevant to what the job is or what the volunteer position is or whatever it is, or like for example in I don't know, let's say for example in the government or in the White House, right? They're hiring somebody to come advise the president or whatever about anti-Jewish discrimination, right? I guess like in those situations, if the person is actually a Jew, herself or himself, it makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? These are like, it's so directly related to what they are doing that's not this, I think, a form of discrimination. That's, I think, is justifiable. Does that maybe, I mean, I'm open to.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that's probably the best way to still maintain the United Nations responsibility to maintain, observe, and protect religious freedom, but still try to prevent unjustifiable discrimination. I think your example of talking about anti-Jewish discrimination like to the White House is not a good example, because someone could be incredibly knowledgeable about that and passionate about it, but not actually Jewish themselves. But I'm just being nitpicky because that's what we do here.
No, you're no, you're right. The last one was not a good example, but the two first ones,
yeah.
The last one was not a good example, but the other two, I think they were good examples. Like, I don't think it should be like illegal for somebody to, if you're having a Quran class, private, like this is not government funded, because it shouldn't be government funded, obviously. If you're having a Quran class and the teacher is not a Muslim, I would like, we're not going to hire you because you're not a Muslim. I think that should be allowed for you not to hire somebody that is simply because they're not a Muslim. Again, I'm not endorsing any of these as good. Obviously, I'm against teaching children as religion. I'm against that. But again, just because I'm against something, that doesn't necessarily follow that I think the government should get involved and make something illegal, right?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, this is an interesting take from AGA saying, I welcome this law with a caveat in place. Faith schools should still be allowed to not hire an openly LGBTI teacher or staff member, but not be able to sack existing ones. I actually completely disagree, unless it's specifically relevant to the job description, i.e., in my opinion, that would be exclusively in the realm of religious studies. Why it's irrelevant. It shouldn't matter in terms of hiring practice. If
I don't think there's
math, why can't they be gay at a Catholic school? And this is also very difficult because, a teacher that perhaps the best employment opportunities in their area are at religious institutions. Should they be denied the best and most competitive position simply because of their sexual orientation at any given institution? I don't think that's right. So yeah, I don't think prohibiting being hired on the basis of your sexual orientation is okay, unless, in my opinion, it's strictly in terms of religious studies. Even then, I think it's kind of BS, but I have a very unique experience of having like religion classes in university taught by a lesbian rabbi. So, yeah.
Yeah, actually, when it comes to a school that is publicly funded, I don't think there's any justification for having any teacher that is teaching religion in a form that is like advocating for it. Like, I think
these are private religious institutions.
Yeah. Okay. So for private religious institutions, I think they should be able to hire somebody that and discriminate based on religion, but not based on LGBT, right? Like, so for example, if you're teaching somebody, I don't know, Christian theology, and this person is a Muslim, or Islamic theology, and the person is Christian, I think you should be able to, as a private institution, you should be like, sorry, we're looking for a Muslim or a Christian, right? But I don't think there's any justification for not hiring somebody because they're LGBT. Like, I completely agree with Susanna. There's like zero justification. And let me think of it just to poke holes at my own point. Let me see if there's any justification for not hiring somebody because they're LGBT. I guess here's one that I think should be allowed, and I'm hoping and I'm open to change my mind about this. Okay, the only time that it might be justified for hiring somebody, and specifically looking for somebody that is not LGBT, No, I can't think of like that as well. I guess let's say there's a position that women, girls are being taught by about like how to have safe, find the limit, how to how to deal with men, how to say no, how to look for consent, like issues when it comes to straight relationships. Again, I don't think that's fair. You could be gay even if you're not straight. You should be. No, I can't think of anything, because just the things that you want to teach them would be very similar to whether somebody's gay or straight. So I don't think there needs to be separate classes. Okay, so if it makes sense for the teacher to be be LGBT, like we're specifically looking for an LGBT teacher to teach our LGBT students about safe sex and the things that they uniquely have to deal with. But is there anything uniquely that, for example, girls that have to deal with boys have to deal with, that you would want a straight teacher to teach them that? And I think maybe not, because you don't have to, the knowledge is there. You don't have to actually be straight to have access to the knowledge and to be able to teach it. So no, I can't find any examples. So I tried to find any example for legitimate reasons to say, like, we're looking for a straight teacher because what we're teaching the kids is specifically about, I don't know, uniquely about straight relationships, and that's, but no, knowledge, you can acquire knowledge even if you don't have personal experiences with it. I tried to do a devil's advocate. I failed. Did you see what I was trying to say, or does that make somewhat of?
Okay. I see what you were getting at, but I was like, But this is something I want to address. So
no, wait. No, I have to defend myself. This is not as ridiculous as you think it was. Like, if you're teaching girls how to deal with men, and I don't know, the manipulation that you might go through, or how if you say no and they don't take your no seriously, the situations, like how to get out of that, how to ask for help, how to look for red flags, how to practice safe sex. These are the things that, you know what I mean? It might be your own personal, like the teacher's personal experiences with it might be relevant somewhat. But again, so I was thinking about that, but then I said, no, it's not relevant, because there's so many, this is knowledge that you could read about, that you could learn. You don't have to actually have personal experience to be able to teach that. But I don't think it's ridiculous to think about what I was saying, because there are many people who choose their teachers based on the personal experiences that they have, and they're like, oh, you're a better teacher because you have personal experiences with this. Right? So I don't think it's a ridiculous suggestion. I mean, I'm disagreeing with it myself, but I don't think it's as ridiculous as some people might think. To think like it's better for the teacher to have personal experience with what they're teaching. I don't know.
Well, those issues are in many ways like gender neutral.
Really? Like, you think like
also, I've never heard of a faith school actually talking to girls about what to do. Like, what?
That is okay. So you can be completely.
That's not this argument, but
I'm not talking about the school. I'm talking in general, trying to find if there's any case you could ever make about not hiring somebody because they're LGBT. Again, I'm disagreeing with. I was just openly thinking about it, but I disagree with it myself. So yeah, I don't think it was as ridiculous to consider it. But go on.
No, it's important to consider. But there is something I wanted to address. There was a comment by, where did it go? Basically, Liachim somewhere was saying, oh yeah, here we go. No, I disagree. Schools should hire based on teaching ability, not their identity. That's not what we're saying. We actually completely oppose hiring on the basis of identity, or at least I do. I think it damages institutions, and it's almost insulting in some ways. But what we're saying is, all things being equal, all abilities, experience being equal, not hiring someone on the basis of their sexual identity is discrimination. That's what we're opposing, and that's what this law addresses.
But yeah, okay. I'm not talking about the school, but in general, sometimes in very specific situations, your identity gives you might be relevant, not strictly because of you having that identity, but because of the personal experience that you might have due to that identity makes you be taken more seriously by your students and be able to add, again, personal experiences is not data, right? Like, I'm not saying because you have personal experience, your knowledge is definitely higher, but you will be able to relate to it in a way sometimes more that, and the teachers or the students might take you more seriously because of your personal identity. That might be an influencing factor. You know what I mean? So I think when in unique situation, when your identity has an extra, gives you some abilities when it comes to conveying a message to the students, it's okay for your identity to be considered when in hiring. Like, for example, yes, it's true that a white person and a black person could have the same amount of knowledge about, I don't know, black experience in America, or like the history of Black America, right? But I think it's reasonable to assume that the students will take the black teacher somewhat more seriously, and some of the personal experiences the black teacher might have to, to, again, the personal experiences, those doesn't make your knowledge, doesn't improve your knowledge, because personal experiences are not a good way to come up with conclusions. However, you could rely on data, but then being able to bring experiences of you or your family, to just color the information for the students, does give you somewhat more of an ability to teach, right? So I think in those unique situations where your identity increases your ability to convince your students and give them stories that they might not be able to get from somebody else, in those situations, I'm not saying it should be the only part of the calculation, but I think you should, if somebody includes that as part of their calculation, it's not a form of discrimination that we should be against. Again, I'm not saying it should be only based on that and nothing else, but it's okay if it's part of your consideration. You know what I mean? I think it's fine if it's part of your consideration.
For me, that's a case-by-case basis, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a case-by-case basis. I'm not saying it should be definitely part of your metric. Oh, here's a better example. Okay, let's say you're doing sex ed to women, right? To girls, right? Sex ed to girls. If you're like, we need the teacher to be a woman, not a man. Okay, I think that's fair. I think that's okay. If you're saying we're teaching sex ed to the girls, and it would be much better, the students would be a lot more comfortable if their teacher is a woman, not a man. I think that's a completely fair form of discrimination. I think that was the best example I came up with, actually.
Yeah,
the other ones were kind of.
That is the best example. Yeah. Hey guys, if you're a fan of Blasphemy and Sexy Callie, like me, then you need to be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description below. Because if you subscribe, we will send you a free copy of our Blasphemous Art ebook. And let me tell you, it is the tastiest blasphemy that you can find anywhere available today. And we are so generous with our blasphemy that we continue to send you more blasphemy every week. So make sure to subscribe, link in the description below.